Okay, we are in Ehven Haezer, chapter 23, subsection 6. So far we covered the prohibition of spilling seed needlessly, whether during the process of intercourse or just masturbation. Furthermore, even not only spilling seed, but even intentionally giving oneself an erection. Furthermore, we spoke about that when somebody goes to the bathroom, he shouldn't if he's not married, he shouldn't touch his private parts when he's going to when he's going to the bathroom. Nor should he, or anywhere under his belly button. For if he is married, then he can touch his organ during the time he's using the bathroom, but not otherwise, not at other times. We spoke about the idea also of not marrying a woman who is not childbearing, but it turns out that has nothing to that has not nothing to do with the prohibition of spilling seed needlessly, because there actually is no prohibition of spilling seed needlessly, having intercourse with somebody who either is not yet childbearing, is no longer childbearing, will not at all be childbearing, can't ever be childbearing, etc., etc. Rather, it's which is interestingly that it puts it in this chapter, actually, because that is actually an issue with the mitzvah that we're commanded to have children. And therefore, in those cases, it's not that the intercourse itself is prohibited. It's just that it's a problem as far as not having children. So if somebody already has children, and not just that, it's not a problem of intercourse at all. It's really a problem of marriage, of can one marry this person, not a matter of, because once he's married to such a person, for example, if he's married to a woman, right? A person, let's be dom l'kav schus, let's judge for the merit, right? This is a person who got married as he should to a regular childbearing woman, or one who we can assume is childbearing. Either it turns out she wasn't childbearing, or let's say she was and now she no longer is, whatever it is. Then, even if he doesn't have children, the intercourse itself is not a problem. The issue is to marry somebody who's not childbearing. In the case where one has still has the obligation to have children. Back in the days when they used to have more than one wife, if you had one wife that's childbearing, it's not an issue.
I think the question is, if you know she's not childbearing, is that Mitzi Zera Levatala?
Well, so it would seem
And so
from
here,
everything they said here that no, and in fact he says that you could that here that mutter l'shamishim ketana v'ayloinis hoyel mishamish g'derech. So it's not with when he brought those up, it's clarified that we're talking about he's not allowed to marry those people. He's not supposed to marry somebody. But if, like, for example, a man gets married, Baruch Hashem, they have 12, 14, 15 children, whatever it is, right? And then she as is the way of women, she has menopause. She ceases to be childbearing. There's no issue at that point. In fact, even if somebody marries a woman, because stam women are childbearing, right? We assume a regular woman to be childbearing. As we know, there's unfortunately, and they should all be blessed to that the Rebbe should give them children. But there are people who get married, and for whatever reason, it turns out they're not childbearing. But still, there's no issue of intercourse there. Which is it's kind of interesting that he even brings it in this simon, because it does bring about a little bit that confusion a little bit. because it sounds like he's talking about insofar as spilling seed needlessly, right? And especially that goes with the flow of what he's talking about here. And then it's clarified both in the Ramah as well as in the Chalkei Meshmul that what's he talking about? He's talking about that's as far insofar as marriage is concerned. In fact, he even goes so far as to say that he's not supposed to marry a person who's not childbearing. But if Avar Vinasa, he knowingly he did what he's not supposed to do. He married her knowingly, intentionally, right? He can still have intercourse with her. That's he's not doing any additional sin by that. So now, this is an interesting one because he's talking about saddles. Well, I guess we said I don't know if exactly how the saddles were then and whatever, and he talks about. Then he goes to talk about that's more simple. But then he goes to talk about pants, about the prohibition of wearing pants. But I'm assuming they had some other kind of there was some kind of riding pants or something like that were maybe tight or something. It's a prohibition against tight pants.
I can't wear yoga pants.
Yeah. So also lirkav al behim b'lo yukaf. This is subsection 6. It's prohibited to ride on an animal without a saddle. Perish merdas bas de balaz, whatever. That's an old French. We'll have to ask Mrs. Delin what it is in New French.
Okay.
Hago. So that's okay. So that's that's the entire sif according to the Mechaber. But then the Ramah adds, "Hini b'Gemara perek kol hayod." Behold, no, it's not hine. It's hago. I read it as hago hine. Hago b'Gemara perek kol hayod mashma in the Gemara in perek kol hayod. It implies the asur lilbeish michnasayim, that it's prohibited to wear pants. If they're not made like, meaning unless they're like almost like chaps or something like this. It means containers for the thighs, right? Bote shekayim. It's like meaning unless they're missing the crotch, you're allowed to wear crotchless pants, but not
right.
regular pants.
Like you said, chaps. Yeah.
Yeah. Mishum de mevi lidei ashchas hazer, because it brings to wasting seed, to spilling seed. Va'afal pisha efshel lidches de bagemara leikaomer elibi mayhem shoyel lehem truma. And even though it's possible to push this off and say, wait, in the Gemara, what's it talking about? It's only talking in their days. Why in their days? That they had the truma, they had the tithes to the priest.
People were extra careful to stay tahar,
Right?
basically.
Yeah, the equal mechash of tumas aguf. So you have to be very careful about the purity of about impurities of the body, because you're not allowed to touch the gifts to the temple, the gifts to the Kohen, etc. You're not allowed to touch it when you're in impure state. Mikol makim still midehevi harash bepiska, from this which the Rosh brings it in his rulings. Mashma, it implies the af bisman as a asr. So in the Gemara, you could say, fine, it was talking in their times. However, the Rosh brings it, our times, but in the Hagga's times, or before the Hagga's times. But basically, the Rosh was in a time that was after the temple, right?
Right.
So, and he brings it in his rulings. So, it would seem that even in our days, and this which they had the minog, they had the practice, of allowing it in the bathhouse. I'm not sure what these pants have to do with the bathhouse.
I guess they had pants. They were
bath pants, swimming trunks. I don't know. So that so maybe like in a different place. Let me see where it's talking about. I'm not sure. But so maybe it's allowed for a short amount of time, but not for a long amount of time. Let's see if there's anything. Do you have anything in here? No. So the truth is, I'm not really sure what these pants are that he's talking about. Obviously today, as we see, it is plainly a regular thing for us to wear pants, and holy Jews have been wearing pants for quite some years now, for decades and centuries. And so I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure what kind of pants he's talking about. I wonder if he's actually being that he's talking about saddles, right? Maybe he's talking about riding pants. Riding pants are like made out of. Maybe they have like riding pants made out of leather that they could use, that would be used instead of a saddle. And some of them would be made like with like pants, and some of them would just be chaps. And so the chaps are fine, but then I don't know how that connects to the bathhouse though. Why would you wear riding chaps in the bathhouse? Maybe he was having a particularly flamboyant day, decided to ride a horse into the bathhouse. I don't know.
No, I just understood it that there was some types of pants that they would wear in the bathhouse.
Uh, maybe right. So maybe he's talking about a whole different. And maybe he's talking about those pants and those pants, because back then that's the only pants they had. They didn't have pants. They didn't wear pants on a regular basis. They wore flowy roby things. Furthermore, in the Gemara, once we're talking about things that the Gemara didn't allow in bathhouses, it also by Gemara lirchitz im aviv ve'ochiv ubal ime ubal achesei. Furthermore, it's prohibited in the Gemara. The Gemara prohibited to go in the bathhouse with one's father, one's brother, the husband of one's mother, the husband of one's sister. But nowadays, it's the practice has been to allow this. Being that they cover their
Swim
private
trunks.
parts in the bathhouse, there's not to worry about sexual thoughts.
People wear swim trunks.
Yeah, swimming trunks or whatever.
Mm.
Yeah. Chalkes mechekik. Eid asru b'gemara lirchetzim aviv v'chamiv balachise. Right. Furthermore, the Gemara, like we said, that even though he changes the lashon here a little bit, what the Gemara prohibited to go in the bathhouse with the father-in-law, and brother-in-law. Akach tzorich leimar. This is what it needs to say. Meaning, it needs to say what he's saying is it shouldn't say his brother. It shouldn't say with his father, his brother, and his brother-in-law, but rather it should be his father, his father-in-law, and his brother-in-law. And this is the Girsas Harif v'Harash. And the Rif and the Rosh, this is how the Megaris, how the wording is by them. V'chein pirish Rashi v'Haran, and so to Rashi and Ran v'chein hu ba'guda avo b'Gemara shalonu, but in our Gemaras Goris gam bal imei. It also says the husband of his mother. Oh, I guess that's the one he's replacing. His bal imei, stepfather, rather than it should be his father-in-law. And so too is it in the Mordechai Vayin Sham, and see there, furthermore, it also says in the Gemara that a student should not go to the bathhouse with his teacher. By the way, we're not talking about like we're not talking about like a third grade teacher bringing his little kids into the bathhouse. Now we're talking about it. We're talking about the Rav and Talmud, right? We're talking about it could be a 30-year-old student and a 30-year-old teacher, whatever it is. It means it's talking about like in a base medrash, right? like even we're talking about even by grown-ups, that a student should not, I guess, because it's not honor for the teacher. However, if his teacher needs him, then he's allowed, right? Let's say it's a very old teacher, and one of the students is like the mishamish who helps him, and and he needs help to get dressed and undressed because he's very old. So then it's allowed if he's needed for this. So it's a whole different. It's even though they're both it's a prohibition, but it's a very different type. One of them is because obviously based on their Amos words, we're worried about sexual thoughts, and the other one is because because of the honor of a Rebbe. So therefore, if the Rebbe needs him, he can do it. He also brings the same girsa, so it should be also. This is how the wording should be. He brings another thing that he brings the same thing that with his Rebbe, he's not allowed to be in the bathhouse unless he says. He brings another way that it's allowed is if he was in the bathhouse before his Rebbe came. Well, at that point, he doesn't have to run out naked, and because the Rebbe walked in, he can continue with the. Aval im aviv v'chulu, aval im aviv v'chulu, also mishum mehirad. Mishum also afilu imu kvar u'merchatz. Also interesting. His father, however, I guess he has to get dry. Meaning obviously he shouldn't run around naked in the streets, but meaning he should right away. If it's his Rebbe, he could even remember the bathhouse then it was first of all they didn't necessarily take baths at the frequency that we do nowadays. When they went to the bath there, maybe on Shabbos, whatever it was, and it was a nice hot bath, they would sit. I think there was perhaps also a social aspect to bathhouses, as there is today. So if he was in already and his Rebbe comes in, he doesn't have to leave. If his father comes in, he has to, obviously to get dressed first, but then he has to leave. Why? Again, because they're two different things. Because one of them, because with the father it has to do with sexual thoughts. With the Rebbe it has to do with honor, right? And therefore two different reasonings. And therefore, it's a different thing if he was there first. Chasidim Arishenim Migdeli Achachamim. The great Hasidim, the great how would you say Hasidim? Hasidim, we call them Hasidim. I don't know. The
Really,
pious ones, right?
Yeah.
The early pious ones and the great sages. He spoiled Echad Mehem Shneistak of Mila Shalei. And we have Misha Sposh Leis Bainim Elam Betzuras Ishte. So one of them took pride is that he had never looked at his own bris. He never looked at his own. He had never seen his own organ. And another one,
who's
was so pious.
someone who's never looked at his.
Yeah, and another one who took pride in never thinking about, never contemplated, never did his beinunus on his wife's form, on his wife's figure. Yeah. Meaning he was married to her for the mitzvah. He didn't.
Right, like Avram Avinu first noticed she was beautiful by the before Mitzrayim going like by the lake, caught a reflection. Before then he didn't think about it.
And why? Pirush. Push all the Shein Zeshla Havai Divrei Hevel. He says the Havai is like Hevel, right? Vain thoughts. He did not because he turned his heart away from vain thoughts, Divrei Amis, to Torah, the true things, true thoughts.
Right?
Which they hold on to the hearts of the holy ones. Anyway, which we saw before, right? Was not if somebody starts getting thoughts, what was the thing? What was the
Right. Yeah, that's what you should actively
solution?
do
Is think about words of Torah.
right. Yeah, there's no chalkas mechayik or Shmuel.
Yes, there's no.
But yeah,
Okay,
that's very
so that's
interesting.
that one. Now we will move on to
Chaf
um.
Zion, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think 24 we can do also.
Chava.
It's I guess connected a little bit.
No, but is that what it's in the
Is Ein
schedule?
Yisrael Shalom ala Revia vala Zachan. When we were talking about before about Yichud, right? So this really is the concludes Yichud. 24 is that it's one sif is the Nefesh Yisrael Amishkav Zachar Behema, that the when we talked about we talked about prohibited relations and about not being secluded with them. So here he talks about wait a second, isn't animals and other men prohibited relationships also? So you shouldn't be able to be secluded with another man or with an animal. He says no, because this we don't worry about a Jew. We don't suspect a Jew of homosexuality or bestiality. Lefichach ein isur lisyach mohen, and therefore there's no prohibition to be secluded with them. However, but if he stays away from being secluded with another man and with an animal, this is praiseworthy. And the great sages, they would do so. They would stay away from animals to not be secluded with them. But there is a lot of and our generations that promiscuity has become a lot. So you should also be stay away from seclusion with other men, which I don't think we even do these days. I don't think there's this noyeg really in any way, shape, or form today. So this is why probably why we don't why we don't we're not careful of this these days. Even though I don't know these days maybe we should not consider it again, because the Bach says that the Mechaber wrote this. Why? Because in his country they were specifically promiscuous in this prohibition, in this sin. That I guess homosexuality was rampant in where did he live originally? In Cairo, in Egypt, right? Oh yeah, I guess in Cairo. Wasn't that why isn't that why he's called that?
I don't know. Good question. He was born in Spain.
So so was that a last name? Why do they call him more? Was he in Egypt at any point?
I don't see anything about Cairo. It was Istanbul, Morocco.
Oh, interesting. So I wonder why he's called that. I always assumed because at some point he lived there, and then the next place he went, they called him like like Berdichever, like even though the Berdichever was in
Doesn't
Berdichever the whole time, but but like the
but it
Lubavitcher,
doesn't
they call him not even after you left Lubavitch. He's still called the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
right. And it doesn't seem to explain where the name came from on
Right.
Wikipedia.
Anyway, anyways, I'm not sure which Medina he was talking about, but in either case, in at least one of the places that and since he was writing it for psak for then and there, so therefore he wrote that because in his country they were so it was, I guess, homosexuality was a rampant thing. Avo b'mdinaseinu ein tzarich lisrachik medina rak midas chasidis. So there's no, but the halacha, according to the law, we don't have to stay away from this. even though it's still a praiseworthy thing. אבל לשכב יחד, ומכל שכן שני רווקים יחד, בכל מקום לא צורך לסלח, ביד יסמכם. What's רווקים? It's like unclothed.
I have no idea. Let me see if Google Translate has anything. By the way, the curriculum says to skip to Siman
Yeah,
Chavav.
I know, but it's a
Okay,
shtick
okay.
one, not to do with it. So I
Okay,
added.
okay.
Now, what's interesting is I wonder in modern day America if it needs if it's
Single?
it needs to be instituted again. But then again, I don't know if it's talking about, in other words, were the people, does it mean the Jews there were prutzim in this thing, or hard to tell?
According to Google Translate, Revakim means single. So like two single people
Because so if it's
are
right,
usher.
so fine. Yeah. Anyway, these days, and which is why we skip it, because these days we don't really have any thing when it comes to yichud of men. Okay, Chavav, and the Beis Shmuel says the same thing. Chavav Hilchis Kiddushin. Now we get into like Shetsky would say the meat and potatoes. Hilchis Kiddushin, the laws of betrothal. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Shaloy lekadish b'via v'yisur b'al penuya afilu im yichada. Not to betroth through intercourse, which is one of the three ways that one can be mekadesh a woman, that he can betroth a woman, and the prohibition of intercourse with an available woman, right, as opposed to a married woman. Even if he already yichada means like he even if he like selected her, it means like unified, but it means like set her aside. He already picked her, so to speak. What's a good word for yichada? Like means like he set her aside for himself. Like
they were exclusive.
Like they already, yeah. Oh, yeah. Right, even they're exclusive. That's good. A woman is not considered a man's wife besides through kiddushin. What is kiddushin?
Properly.
Betrothed her properly. Avol im ba'ala derech znus shaloy l'shem kiddushin. Now, like we said before, one of the ways of betrothal is through intercourse. However, what if he has? That doesn't mean that intercourse is always betrothal, right? Why? Because it has to be l'shem kiddushin. It has to be that he's having
Have it in
intercourse.
mind at least,
Have in
or
mind that this
say
is right.
something.
He's betrothing her. However, if he comes on her in a way of he says nus of prostitution, so to speak, meaning
Harlotry.
yeah, that's not for the sake of betrothal. Ein klum. It is nothing, meaning it is not a betrothal of any sort. Va'afilu ba'aleh l'shem ishus beinay lebeina. Let's see what's it mean.
So now, even if Taka, they do have in mind to get married.
Right. So what's the difference here?
No. So that was one thing. I think there's a new thing. Okay, so now afilu. Let's keep going.
Right. Va'afilu ba'aleh l'shem ishus beinay lebeina. Even if he does have intercourse with her for the sake of marriage between him and her. She's not considered his wife.
Hmm.
So the question
Faber
is,
holds
what case
if sleeping together is not kiddushin. very interesting.
He's meaning nobody knows about
Ain't a
it.
clue. No, no, no. I think you think. Keep going. Keep reading.
Right, ain't a
Even
klum, so it's nothing.
between, they both had in mind, it was mutually consented that this is for marriage. We're doing this for marriage.
No, but right. But why not?
They're not considered like a wife. Even if she's exclusive to him,
Right,
even if she's like, you're the only one for me. El
right.
Adraba,
We
they're still
force
not
him to
Mekadesh.
take her out of the
The
house.
opposite,
So what's he
Kaifin
talking about?
Bezdin forces. So Mechaber holds that Bechlal Bia is not Kedushin.
No,
Doesn't
but so
matter if
what's
they
the,
have it in mind or not.
so what's the beinay leveino? I think
I
he's
think
talking about it.
that
I
they
think he's
both had
talking
in
about it.
mind.
Nobody knows about it because there has, for example, in
I
a
think
yichud
it's they both that it's mutual consent.
in a yichud room, why do you wait a certain shear? Why is there a certain
Hold on, we
amount of
haven't done
time?
the Ramah yet. I'm telling you, it's not that. It's Beinay leBeinah. They both had in mind that it's l'shem ishus.
Right.
The Beinay leBeinah is on the words l'shem ishus. They both have it in mind to be for marriage. He's saying an extreme statement.
It's a very
Vafilu, this
interesting
whole
statement.
afilu, like even boy l'shem ishus. They're coming at it for sake of marriage, and it's not just him having it in mind or her having it in mind in the back of their mind. I want this to be for marriage. No, both of them, Beinai,
Right.
Leveina, they're both doing this. We're getting married with this. This is us getting married. We're being Mekadesh each other. This is us being exclusive. This is us being Mekadesh. The Mechaber is saying no. Power of
Yeah,
Bezdin
but
is no. We say no. That's not Kiddushin. And in
I think
fact,
he's
now you
not
can't
gonna.
be together.
I think he's going to be talking about. Let me see it here.
And let's keep going. I think let's finish this if, and then we'll see.
Meaning he's there is kiddush idea. There is, I mean, we don't, that's not, I mean, we do it also now.
I understand. But let's finish this if. I think that I don't. I think that's because other people disagree.
No, I
Let's
think
go
it's
see the
because
Ramah.
I think it's because there's no Aiden. Because if you think of it, that's what he means by Beinay Leveina. Meaning, for example, in a yichud room,
I don't know.
right?
I think let's see the rest of the sif
Wait,
and
think
see the
about it.
Mishmur.
In a yichud room, right? Let's think about a
No,
yichud room.
I
Why
understand that, but
wait? So why do you wait
that's
a
based
so
on.
why do you wait a certain shear? What's the amount of time you wait? You wait the amount of time that they would have been able to
Not just a
have
certain shear,
intercourse, right?
but there are those that
Okay, here's
won't.
the problem. And what
Hold
if
on.
you
There
don't
are
have
those that
witnesses? Oh, and
there are
what if you
those that
don't have
hold on.
witnesses? It's no good.
Even more so, there are those that hold that won't use the little library in 770 as a yichud room. Why? Because you can't be together in front
Right,
of Svarim.
right.
So they're like, you're supposed to
Yeah.
be able to. No one does it because it would be very inconvenient, and usually it's inappropriate anyway during the day, etc. But even if it was in a room with, it was nighttime and dark curtains and a
Whatever.
bed and everything, it's just inconvenient. But Lemaisa, the point is, you're right. It has to be that you're able to
Okay.
consummate the marriage. And I'm not. Hold on, we're not talking about that though. That's the suin. That's consummating the marriage. That's after kedushin takes place.
No, I think he's talking about that because remember
This is
that's only
kedushin.
now
We're talking
we
about
do that.
to be mekadesh
That's only
somebody.
now that we do that after the marriage is taking place. But back then you can be Mekadesh. Here's the problem: if they go into that yichud room for 8 minutes, right, and there was no witnesses, does it mean anything? No, there has to be witnesses. He's talking about there's no witnesses. That's the Beinay
I don't know.
Leveino.
I think you're reading into that because based on today's knowledge, which comes after the Machaber, Ramah, Chilkas Mechekik, Bishmul, and other poskim,
That's because it's
I think we
different
should
now.
continue learning the Sif, and we'll see. We'll see.
Fine. Okay. Anyway, Hago. The Bevadei
I know.
Bushahi Militbel, because certainly she's embarrassed from Taiveling. And he's having intercourse with her when she's impure. Aval imi yachidei isha v'tevelas but if he selects a woman and she goes to the mikveh for him, some say it's allowed. And
So
this
that
is
Ramah is
not
commenting on
about
why is the Bezdin koifin them? Why did this Bezdin push them and say you got to send her out? Because so that Ramah is saying that because we're worried out of embarrassment because they're not officially married, she might not go to mikvah,
and
and then he's going to be with a person
he's
who's a
having
nida, so
intercourse with
that's
her when she's
inappropriate,
right when
right?
she's impure.
But if there's a case like that girl in
But
Williamsburg
if
wrote
we
about
know
where
that she
Shitaka
went
goes
to
to
mikveh,
mikvah,
right, etc. So some say, remember, this is not necessarily das mechaber. he's bringing an opinion that this is the concubine that is spoken about in the Torah.
Which means, by the way, not even full kedushin. It still wouldn't be full kedushin. It would be laws of pilegish, meaning he would have some responsibility to her. People with pelagshim, multiple wives, there was still a type of ksuba. There was still a type of responsibility. It wasn't just full wife, full husband responsibilities. Right. The husband didn't take full responsibility for her, but he still does owe her somewhat, and that's what we're saying would happen if they were just, you know.
There's another opinion, however, it's prohibited. And they get lashes for this. I guess because they were mishum. Why? Of loy siya kedesha.
Later says, "Don't be a hoe."
Right. And what happens if you are? Now remember, an ashes, when it comes to death penalties, that's only with a married woman, or with one of the forbidden relations. With a non-married woman, they just get lashes. Or if they only had yichud, they get the makas mardus. They get the court ordained lashes.
Right.
Kusi shenosa kusis. A kuthite.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Cushing. Okay.
Yeah. Cushy. A kuthite. What do they call a kuti? Who marries a kutis?
Is that where the whole thing of cooties comes from? Because you're not supposed to marry a kuti,
yeah, maybe.
And so it's cooties. Maybe.
V'chein mumar shenosa mumeres. Or right, so a kusi is a what is it like? It's like an idol worship.
It's one of the nations,
a pagan or something like that. It's a kusi.
No, thing. Is that it's not talking about just one of the people we're not supposed to marry? Kuti and a mummer.
Well, a mummer is a
Let's
what
continue.
do you call it?
Yeah, meaning a regular yid is not supposed to marry a kuthi or a mummer, even if they're
what's
yid.
A mummer? Is not mummer like what do you call it? A mummer is like a shmad or something like that.
Right, and not be curious or something.
Yeah. Bini Musayan, in either case, they get married in their disgustingness, in their disgusting state.
In their minhag,
meaning in their ways. Meaning in their not
in their ways.
Meaning it's not they married not with proper kedushin.
Not Kadas Moshe Yisrael.
Right, they married not with a proper. They didn't have a proper Jewish marriage. Vin is gaidu acharkach, and then they convert. They become the what do you call it?
Tshuva.
Yeah, Kusi in this case, I think he's talking. He's talking about a Gentile, and he's
that makes sense. Kuti would be someone not Jewish, and a mummer meaning someone who's not from. Right. So it means someone not Jewish or not from.
Even though a Kusi is really a certain type of Gentile.
No, but here you're saying, I hear what you're saying.
I think it's like
someone not Jewish or not from. That's what it means. Someone not Jewish or not from.
And then they are misguided after that. They or the tshuva or whatever, or they convert. Ein kan chash kedushin klal. There is no worry at all that their original betrothal holds any value. Umuteres let's get, and he's allowed to leave to leave with her without a get, without a divorce contract. Even if she was with him for several years. And it's just like she was basically a prostitute.
He was also. Not just her.
They were living in sin, but it's no marriage.
Hoeing it up.
Yeah,
what's interesting? I was going to say what's interesting is when it comes to halachas for Bnei Noach, we consider kedushin for them something as simple as just living together because there's no official Kadas Moshe Yisrael. So what's interesting?
The second he converted,
he becomes a yid. That means that's nothing because to a yid,
right now,
for a yid that's nothing.
Right.
For someone who's not Jewish, that it's enough to be
even though before he would be liable had he gone with somebody else.
Yeah.
right? While he was not Jewish. However, once the second he converts, he's right. So now common law marriage no longer applies.
Which is why they
The
have to
only
get
way he
married.
can marry is
Lechatchila.
with
It's not.
kedushin.
There's no. They have to do it all from the beginning. There's no, oh, we already did kedushin. Let's just go straight to Nisuin, or let's go straight to whatever. Nope. You did nothing. You're starting from zero.
Chelkas mechekik aleph. Right. So it says. So first we start up with the Mechaber said that a woman is not considered a man's wife unless he properly betroths her. However, if he has intercourse just in a way of prostitution, that's not for the sake of betrothal. It doesn't mean anything. Betur kosav sheloika mishum leisi kadesha. The Tur writes that she gets whipped. Why? Because of do not be a hoe, right? Do not be a loose woman. This comes from the Rambam, Tilas Hilchis Ishus, in the beginning of the laws of Ishus. Aval Aravid Hisigolov. The Ravid, how do you say Hisigolov? Like he challenged him. V'kosav, and he writes, "Im kain lama hamefatim mishalim kanas." If that's the case, we know that somebody who seduces, right, an unmarried woman, he gets a fine. How can he get a fine? We have a double jeopardy rule, right? That if you have two punishments, you only get the more severe of the punishments. You don't get both. And we know he gets a knas. Wait a second. According to this, he should get lashes. And if he gets lashes, how can he pay a fine? Well, this is the same case. It's a non-married woman. He had relations with her. He had illicit relations with a non-married woman, inappropriate relations. So if that's the case of Kedesha, he should, and he gets lashes. Then, but we know that's somebody who what's the word again from Efate? He's
Seduces her.
Yeah, seduces. He gets a fine, so it can't be talking about that. Elavade ein kedesha, but certainly in this case she is not. We're not. This is not the kedesha that the Torah talks about. Ella hamufrekes lechol adam. Besides four, who is a kedesha? Only one who is a mufkeres. That is makes yourself free to any person. Meaning she's an actual prostitute rather than anyone who has relations out of wedlock. That's the kedesha.
Oh, that's so funny. I would have thought mufkedes means the opposite, not a prostitute, meaning someone who doesn't charge, someone she's just a slut. She's not specifically someone who
could be
deals
also
financial
could be
transactions.
also.
But you're saying here they're making the distinction between someone who is they're acting inappropriately, but they're still exclusive. They're still monogamous. It's still just the two of them, but they're doing it outside of marriage
but they're
versus
having
someone who
relations outside of wedlock.
Right. But it's outside of wedlock, but they're still at least exclusive. They're still, as opposed to mufkeres, meaning someone who's just multiple partners.
However, says the David, the one who who has made herself exclusive to a man, even though they're not properly married, there's no lashes in that.
Mm-hmm. Because it's not over loisi kadesha.
Right, it's not loisi kadesha. Right. It's not loisi kadesha. And how do we know this? We know this because one who seduces a girl has to pay a fine to her father.
I have to stop whipping every woman
and
that
if he
comes
got
to the
lashes, which we know that by Kadesha gets lashes. And so we know that can't be the case. So Mishnah Koshev Evshalem Shabilas Penuya he Mishnah writes that maybe that intercourse with a non-married woman is what's ba'asei v'chulu. I'm not sure what he's talking about there. He doesn't give me enough words for that. What's the does he give a source from the Maggid Mishnah? I don't see a source from the Maggid Mishnah. We'll have to figure out. We'll have to look at the Maggid Mishnah, see what he's talking about. But and even according to the Ravid, right? So remember the Rambam says that this case gets lashes, and it's from the laws. It's from Kedei. This is the Kedesha that the Torah is talking about. The Ravid says no, that's not a Kedesha. Kedesha is not somebody who is exclusive. It's somebody who makes herself free among everybody. That's the Kedesha that gets lashes. And this one who's exclusive does not get lashes. However, this one who's exclusive, even according to the Ravid, is not allowed. Asura bia pnuyim yibid. Even though, remember, Kedesha is a biblical prohibition, right? So even though that Ravid holds that this one we're talking about who's exclusive is not a Kedesha, it's not that biblical prohibition that gets lashes. Still, from midrabanan, it's asr. From rabbinical law, it is prohibited. How do you know? Because I remember before when we were talking about the laws of yichud that we said from the Torah, you're not allowed to seclude yourself with a married woman or with any of the prohibited relationships besides your parent, right? And a sibling temporary is fine, but not on ongoing, right? However, David HaMelech added to that not only the prohibited relations, but also a non-married. Wait, so if there's no issue, with well, we said a Kadesha, fine, she's going around a bunch of men. But if there's no issue with an exclusive relationship with a man, right, that's out of wedlock, then why did David made a decree that they're not allowed to be secluded together? So obviously there's an issue with them having relations, because the whole point of the seclusion is to make a fence. They shouldn't come to have relations. So even according to the Ivid, it's at least midrabanan, you would say, for at least from the sages, from the oral law, we would say it's prohibited. Right, and from even looking at her, right, like we know it says that somebody who looks at a woman for and gets pleasure from looking at a woman, it's a prohibition. It's from the Kabbalah. It's halach l'meish Sinai. Ariyakos of Eimer bris karati le'enai uma is bein al besula, because the pasuk writes, Taylor writes that I how do you say karati, like I'm like karati bris levechiri. I made a covenant. What's it called?
Yeah, I don't know a good translation for that. Give me a second.
Was it in Tehillim?
Yeah, what is it? Which kapitel is it?
You see it? What it is?
No. Because the
I
same
can't hear you so
letters.
good. Your microphone is on the
Sorry,
side.
the same letters. The same letters means leaks. So when I Google
No,
it
no,
to try to
it's
find the
here.
Tehillim,
Look up in Tehillim
which Tehillim is it?
Mem Hey maybe? Not sorry. Pay Hey. Around there, you know, they call it Tibris, live. It means like I made but there's a word for it. It means I made a covenant, right? I made a
Pay
covenant with
test.
my
Hold on.
chosen one.
Hold on. Pay test. I just Googled. Okay. 89.
When is it?
It's pay test.
So
Um,
I'm way out.
Karate, but it's yet Dalit. It's just I formed the covenant. I formed. So
So I made
karate,
it. Yeah.
I formed, I made,
Yeah.
or like maybe more engraved, like more formed, like
I always
pottery.
thought it
That's
meant
the vibe I'm getting.
like I cut a covenant, like cutties, something like that.
Hmm.
But in either case, yeah. So ein berivar simin tavhei of something else similar to test custom in atera and is liznei simplia that biblically there is no prohibition to um relations with a single
That
with a
woman.
non-married woman.
So,
Okay.
so President Clinton was okay in the end.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah.
They're
Well,
nice
not according
anyway.
to Rabbeinu Gershom, he wasn't.
Oh, they're nice at least. Okay, fine. For him that I've been
I
Gersh.
see was
Or
fine, right?
maybe he's fired.
Leave it
I
out
don't
in the
know. What?
Rabbanon.
Okay.
The question is, do you get impeached from the Rabbanon?
That's the real shaila is impeachment
Right.
over the Rabbanan
Or
Deiraisa.
only a Deraisa. But especially if it's a suffix, and a suffix the Rabbanon is lahakil. So
That's
Vafilu,
the
right. He definitely denied it. We know that.
I mean, that's the bigger problem. I think that people will claim is that you lied
Vafilu
about it.
ba'alel l'shem ishus. Continues the Mechad. We're in the base Shmuel now. Aleph. Even if, right. So we said that a person has to have proper kedushin, but if he has intercourse with not kedushin in mind, it's meaningless. And even if they have intercourse and they have in mind to have that for marriage, ayin simin kuf mem tes kol shenasa v'goli lakol haviki'ilu hayu edim be'isabiyah. As long as when they marry and everybody knows about it, it is as if there were witnesses at the time of copulation. Lefizeh, according to this, so if it's known, then it's a good kiddushin, even if there weren't actual witnesses. Meaning, obviously not actual witnesses, but actual witnesses outside the door or whatever, you know. So that's what it's talking about. It's talking about that it was not known, and that's the problem. So that's the beinoi leveina means shaloy haya begoloi, and that's the problem. The problem is, so there's two things. A, if kedushin is unintentional, it does not work. B, if it's not known, it does not work. So kedushin has to, but bivia kedushin, the kedushin through intercourse has to have, and really not just that kedushin, al kedushin has to have two aspects. A, it has to. Well, we'll see about as far as if it's known or not. I don't know about the other ones, but they definitely all have to be l'shem kedushin. It has to be for the sake of marriage, and B, it has to be known. It has to be publicized. It has to be something that people can know, that people know about. So what he's saying here is if two people they do kiddushin, they get married to each other, and they do marriage through intercourse, but they do it secretly. No, that's not what do you call it? And I guess that's what the Haggah, according to this, that's what the Haggah means. That, and we worry, hang on a second, why didn't you tell nobody? He didn't tell nobody because she's embarrassed to go toivel, and that's why we separate them.
Right, and she might be embarrassed, and then
Yeah.
right.
So I guess according to that one Yesh Emrim, that's the difference between a Pilegesh and a concubine and a wife. Would be the one they publicize that they're married. The other one, he separated her. I mean, he made her exclusive to him. He's only with him. But without the contract of a ksuba. And she taveled, right? Obviously, because she has to. And they and he made her exclusive by through the act of intercourse. But they didn't publicize they're married. Why? Because she's concubine, and this is the concubine that spoke about the Torah, according to that opinion. So basically, however, there's another opinion. So it continued the Ramah that this is not the concubine.
With Phantom that I've been in Gershom, is there wording that makes it clear that it includes something like a Pelegesh? Like, is there room for someone to come along and say, "Oh, he only meant, full wives, but you can have multiple. You can still have a Pelegesh or something." Like, does anyone try to say that?
We have to go back to the
Chayim itself.
Well, there's the whole thing. It's in here. It's in here. The whole Chayim of Rabbi Gershom. No.
Yeah, I think we talked about it.
No,
I just don't
it's
remember.
in Ehven Brewer for sure. But
Remember we
yeah,
talked about it. I just don't remember.
Let's go back to that.
Okay, whatever.
Anyway, so that's one opinion says that this is the Pigel Pilagish, and the other opinion says no, it's also and you get lashes. Medivrei Aruch. This is from the Divrei Aruch, meaning he's the one that says no, it's also and you get lashes. Va'turle mashmashi is Pilagish. And the Tur, it does not sound like there would be any issue, any prohibition of a concubine. Rak pegamba mishpacha v'heder kovid. Rather just a how do you say a pegam, a fault in the family, like meaning a lineage fault, so to speak, like how do you call it, pegam?
A blemish.
A blemish, yeah. Oh, good.
Right.
A blemish in the family, and it's a lack of honor. It's the opposite of honor. The ilu haya balav the loyti kedesha haya mutlal based in lachavazeh. Because if it was a prohibition of, especially a biblical prohibition, right, of don't be a kedesha, then Beis Din would have to force them regarding this matter. They would have to, right, take action here. Umali isur nida she bekaris, umali isur kedesha. And even though Kadesha gets lashes, you'll say before, right? What they set with, right? Because he said that in the case where they're secretive about it, and that we're afraid that she didn't taivel. But we're saying if she did taivel, right? If she did taivel, then according to that opinion, that's the Kadesha. So wait a second. So why in the case where she taivels, they don't separate them, and the case where she doesn't taivel, they separate them? Because there you said she's anida, which is karis, right? She's impure. And here you said she taivels, so she's not anida, she's not impure. But who cares? She's a kadesha. So these are both. Who cares what the punishment is? The punishment is how we resolve for your soul to fix this thing. right? But a biblical prohibition is a biblical prohibition. So
Right.
basically, he's not understanding this. He's questioning this second opinion that
That
says
Rama
that
brings the second Yeshever.
the opinion that said that if she tovels, it's not allowed and they get malchus. Or let me see. Yeah,
So the second Yeshever, which says that they get because they watch them call the Lycia Kadesha because they were
right,
over Lycia Kadesha, which
right.
is the Iraisa.
Gamidi Rambam. Eine mashma she malchus bipilegish am yuchedesh lishachot. Because even from the Rambam, it would sound like a concubine, right? Even though he holds that what's it called? By that he said by this thing that in Bala derech znus shem kedushin. Even according to the Rambam, it doesn't sound like it would be malchus in the case of a concubine. The hak kasav kolabel ish l'shem znus b'lei kedushin leike. It says anybody anyone who has intercourse with a woman for the sake of just of znus of what do you call it of
Having fun.
yeah, basically without kiddushin, without betrothing her, he gets slashes mashma. So it implies when you chadish the same issues that if he is making her exclusive as a wife, af beloy kedushin, even with not a betrothal, ein bo lav l'chol hapachis, at the very least is not like we said before. So maybe it's a blemish in the family. It's not the most honorable thing to have a concubine, but at least it would seem there's no prohibition. But hilchos malachim like kosav rak aval hedyet also be like ish kosav like olel. And Hilchos Malachim, he writes that the simple person is not allowed to have a concubine. However, he does not write there that you get lashes if you do. Beis Shmuel.
By the way, before we move on to Bishma, I just want to point out something. We mentioned a lot of times in this sugya about not doing things for znus and not looking at one's wife, etc. I think there's and maybe this is the chassan teacher in me, but making an important distinction, and for anyone who's listening, and even for ourselves, to remember that what we're talking about is that there's a difference between, the biological imperative that we have, what many people will call our needs,
Right.
versus being ligan and tivus. And I think a great mashal that I think everyone can relate to easier, because too often people get sometimes too religious and they're like, oh, I can never. No, that's good. I'm not gonna, and that's chas v'shalom. That's unhealthy. Meaning, with regards to food, what's a healthy relationship to food? When I'm
Right.
hungry, I should eat, and you should eat regularly. And nutritionists will tell you you should eat every 3 hours so you don't get over hungry. You're not gonna end up
Right.
overeating,
In fact,
etc.
eating
So
smaller things more frequent is
yeah.
better.
Eat,
Correct.
eat small, snack throughout the day, eat regular meals every 3 hours, eat within the first half an hour you wake up, etc., etc. So the same thing with regards to this, it's an appetite. It's the same way. You should feed it regularly. And when you have a need, you have a biological imperative, you're hungry,
Well,
you should
and
definitely eat.
furthermore, not
Because to
with
not
food.
do
Well, with
so,
food, let's go back to food a second. With
yeah,
food, not just eating. In other words,
that's what I'm saying. So
there's
that's
people
eating
like,
for
oh,
need.
you're enjoying the food. You're supposed to enjoy the food, and actually, it's healthy to enjoy the food. Okay, but then there's just the level where somebody's enjoyment of food becomes an unhealthy upset. But even
So that's what I'm saying. But
even
then no,
a
so
good
that's the
proper Jew,
distinction I
you're
want to
supposed to
make.
enjoy your food. So the same
Okay. No,
thing.
so that's what I'm
Go
saying
back now to
is
the
there's a
nimshal.
difference between I need to eat and I can enjoy it while I'm eating it.
Right,
Absolutely, it's good for you,
right,
but it's good for your digestion to enjoy it, etc. But then there's I'm only eating because I want to feel that those endorphins, those chemicals, that feel good chemical, which I'm not hungry. And Pasha, now I'm hurting myself. I'm overeating and I'm hurting myself because I don't actually need to eat. I just ate. But
right.
oh, now that looks yummy. Now that I want to try, and that
Oh,
I'm
that
gonna eat.
right. And now
That's
it's not
unhealthy. So I think
right.
that's what we're saying. We're saying if there's no
And
or whatever, this
and
is
it's
what we're
not
talking
Midas
about.
HaChassidus either, also.
You-
To
Absolutely. So
just
that's what I'm saying. Even
what
b'midas
to stick
chassidus,
out on, yeah.
even a good chassidish yid and a chassid, a pious one he's not even thinking about his wife's form, etc., will still have a regular appetite and make sure he has a regular appetite. Which the Rebbe Rashab, you'd be surprised, it's not even like a recent thing like the Rebbe. The Rebbe Rashab was already saying about chassidim should be at least 2 to 3 times a week,
Yeah,
at least 2 to 3 times.
yeah.
So I was just saying, like we were talking about this. I think it's because it's very powerful. I think to remember and not to both ways, not to slip both ways to become suddenly
Right,
I'm not human. Again, that was the whole thing with Cesar Tala. We were saying you got to be really careful,
right.
and it's very interesting in this sugya as well with regards to what's a kosher,
Right, not only that,
marriage,
that's it's
healthy healthy relationships, and
there's
unhealthy
part
relationships.
there's part of the within oneself that it's that the have it's appropriate to have the appetite, and B, as far as the bond in the marriage is also
Right, and
the
and then
appropriate
there's
appetite.
the obligations of Aina and what I owe the other person, etc. This what I owe them, but I'm saying not even what I owe them. I'm just saying even inside yourself, I'm a
I'm
Chassidus
not
and I
saying
want to
even
be,
owed. I'm talking about just just
right,
the bond of
right to connect. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I just wanted to because I keep hearing it and it keeps reminding me.
yeah, and it's a very interesting, like, because when you're going too far the other way in terms of like intercourse being just for children. No, that's not the Jewish way.
Well, I think people hear it and they do one of two things. Either you have those people with taka, they go and they're Mr. Chassidish and from, and they're like way too from, then and that's not even from anymore. But it's an unhealthy attitude. They become, in that area, they become like anorexic, in
Right.
so to
Yeah.
speak. They push
Yeah.
up
Well,
like an eating disorder, bulimic anorexic, or they do something sadly the other way. Even though they're from Chassidish Yid in every other area, they're just like, well, whatever. I'm just going to do whatever I want in the bedroom and go the other way. Where then
right.
taka, it's Pashut Znus, and then Pashut like doing
Yeah.
whatever things that's also inappropriate. Like, so I think it's important to remember what's
Well, it's
to have the right
I guess
perspective,
the interesting thing
so we
is
have a healthy relationship with our food,
right.
so to speak.
Right. And it's really that it comes down to to really the broader idea that Frumkeit is about Eibishter. The second your Frumkeit has become about you, about how frum I am and how frum I'm gonna be,
That's
it's not Frumkeit anymore.
that's a good one.
You
That's a
know,
good one. How
it's
frum I am. Oh,
in
that's
other words,
I like that.
it's a very funny thing because you would think how to you can be too religious too. Why? Because if what you're doing is not, and this was what do you call it? It's we see different cases with Shaul, right?
Right.
That he was that right, because chesed is a good thing, right? Being kind, and but we see it's not. It's what does the Eibishter need from you at the end of the day? Mo Hashem lekeichem deish meitchem. Here I say, right? But yeah, but it all comes down to and you see this. In fact, you can see it's almost like it's I forget. I don't know who it was. Maybe it wasn't even, it wasn't even the author's name wasn't even put there. There was a sort of an interesting op-ed on Cole Live about this a while back. Somebody sent me.
Oh yeah,
Somebody
interesting.
sent me
I
because
didn't think I saw that.
I don't regularly look at news sites, not even Jewish ones. I don't have the time for it, and not only that, I know if I go down that rabbit hole, I won't have time for anything else. So so I don't generally go to any unless sometimes somebody will send me something that's interesting. But anyway, somebody sent this interesting op-ed. There's that there's essentially there was a guy who was writing about how he has OCD, and he tied it, and his OCD became like one of the main ways that he would I guess sort of carry it out, right? Was in his religious. He was like so like meticulously religious, but after there was a point where he realized it wasn't about God. His religion OCD was about him. It was about his mate. What listen,
Right. So
I
truly,
don't quite understand OCD. I can't act like I'm an expert in OCD, but it had
right,
something to do with a need to control
right.
the thing,
So
but with
I
inflation,
don't know if this is
and
who
he was
wrote the
using his
op-ed you're
religion
talking
for
about.
it.
But I don't know if this is the one who wrote the article you're talking about, but it's really Richler, who comes to Pittsburgh very often because he's
Yeah.
married to a Pittsburgher. Say he openly has a TED talk about it. How yeah, he went through and it happened when he was a bacher. That's where it really came out. And how many times he's washing
It could be
Negavasser
maybe
and
that maybe
how
that was
many
such a big
times
thing.
he's repeating words and lines and davening and how yeah,
Yeah,
how he can
so
can
I think that might be who is who
but I
because
think
it
I
sounds
think it's
or it
something
could
that
be
can
somebody else who just had a similar thing.
no, but I think it could be very common, especially when the way we stress in yeshivas and stuff like that, the Chassidishkeit and the Yiddishkeit and whatnot. So I think it's very
Right.
common, and for someone who does struggle with OCD, that can be a very common
Right,
area
but
where
also for
it can be hard if you're not paying attention. You know,
I
be hard
think
to differentiate
any
what's
sickness can be combined with Hasidishkeit.
yeah, yeah, it's true too. Yeah.
For example, there's another thing to be what do you call it? To be wild, for example, right? To be wild, right?
Right,
So
right. Shtus de kedusha.
Hasidus emphasizes being lebedik, being lively, being
Right.
right. And it could also, so for example, with me, I don't have the OCD part of the problem, but
Shtus de kedusha.
I have the Wildkeit part of the problem. And you have to, so it's the same thing. You have to be careful about is my lebedigkeit, is my excitement right now? Is it for the Abishter? Is it not what the Abishter needs from me right now?
Right. Is it doing this because the Abisha needs me right now, or is it because I
Right.
want to be Vilt? And
Because
I'll
I want to be
finish.
built, and I'm right. I'm usually right. And
I'll say one more thought. This reminds me of a shliach. My brother spent a summer. I think this was in Columbus,
yeah,
and I forget the name of the shliach, but he spent a lot of time with him, and he remembers even just being in the car with him. And depending on who he was talking to, his persona would change. Now, he wasn't Chas v'shalom a liar or whatever, but he
no,
was
that's me
accessing different
also.
parts of his personality depending on what the person needed. So, like some official balabas, politician, he was very like eloquent and refined. There was a guy. He warned my brother before he answered the phone. He says, "This guy's Basha dying from Yena Machla. So just be warned. Just don't freak out." And he answered the phone and he said, "What's going on?" He was like screaming and he's like, "We're gonna kick this thing in the tuchus and we're gonna." He was all like, it was a totally
No, by
different
the way,
energy.
I have a similar thing. I think it's called like a chameleon personality.
Right, but it's ideally it can
It's
be
that
very
it's
helpful.
you reflect who you're talking about,
Right,
talking with to a certain degree.
right, right,
Which is not always good because if you're talking to a real schmuck, then you become a real schmuck also. So
right. It's a problem. If I'm hanging
but
out
it's
with
not
people in Vegas, so right,
it's not an intentional thing at all. It's a
right, right.
natural thing that you mirror like who you're talking to,
Well, I
and
think
it
for
could
I
be
know for
very good and
myself,
very
yeah,
bad.
for me it's not a conscientious thing. It's a negative yeah, it's a negative thing that I'm trying to use towards positivity. This guy, I think it was something he
No,
created, he
I
consciously
don't think it's
made.
a negative. I don't think it's at all a negative thing.
No, I'm saying for myself, I do it in a negative way, and I'm trying to turn it towards positive,
Oh,
and
yeah,
that I use it positively,
right. But
and
in and
that I
of
still
itself, it's not a negative thing.
be and then I'll be myself when I need to be, and instead of just being
No, I
negative,
mean it's also a matter of remembering yourself and remembering to like it's because I think and I think it's very helpful for a lot of people because I ultimately I think it comes from a place of empathy.
Yeah, you're
The problem
feeling
is empathy is not always good.
right, exactly.
So yeah,
Sometimes you have to be that stiff oak tree that's planted strong, even though there's a hurricane around you and rivers passing by.
yeah,
You are planted in MS. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, with regard to this stuff, it's yeah, it's not so easy, but to find that line to make sure you always know, am I doing this for myself as opposed to David? I like that.
right. And
That's good.
then bringing that back, bringing that back in your nenu, our
Right.
subject. It's the same thing. It's also it's really and it's not always an easy listen, which is why the like why the Rebbe told us have it of have a mashpia have the you have to have because it's very hard for no matter who we
It's
are
not
and what level we
right.
think we're at it's very hard for us to see ourselves objectively.
Well, us nefesh Bahamas havers, yeah, we don't know what's a chiddush yitzhahara and what's a good thing. For those tzaddikim that don't have yitzhahara, I'm always so jealous because it must be so easy. Every whim, every feeling they suddenly have, they
They know
know
it's a
this is
proper
coming from the Eibishter.
Yeah.
This is clearly the Abish. They're pushing me in this direction. This has nothing to do with never. I don't have one. So obviously, okay, I see a woman, Yehuda, the Shevet Yehuda, walking along the road and sees a woman on the side of the road, and he has this feeling he wants to sleep with her. It must be coming from a good place
It's
because I
like
wouldn't have this feeling otherwise.
it's like this
Like for
story.
me, if I had that
I
feeling, I
forget
would
which
run
class
away.
it
What do you
was.
mean?
I think it was Shmuel Munkis.
Mm.
There's two stories. There's one story that there was somebody who said there was one of the I think one of the Rebbe, I don't remember if it was the Baal Shem Tov or whatever, but they asked him how does he know about what's because he said the first thing that comes to my mind, I know this is the Yetzer Tov.
Oh, right. I think maybe the Tzemach Tzedek says, "How do you know?" Right, and then the thing that tries to
But
argue,
then
maybe do this instead. That's
right,
Yetzer Hara.
right,
Right,
whereas
right, right.
Shmuel Munkis, right, there was a thing
If I'm with the meat, right?
there's a
If I'm
thing where they
tooling
ran
him in
into
the
the meat, right?
timer,
He ran and they were
there
cooking meat.
must be
He picked up the meat and ran through the whole thing out, hundreds of dollars
right,
of meat for a chasna or
right.
something.
It was like a
And
lung
they,
or something. It
right,
was by
right,
Fabrengen, but yeah.
what do you call it? And they yelled, what's wrong with him? They were going to beat him up. And
Right,
then all of a sudden, just as they're getting ready to beat him up, the sheikh comes and goes, stop, the meat is treif. There's something got
right,
switched, whatever. And as they
right,
say, said, he told, he said, how do you know? He said, no, because I had the first thing that came to my
right.
mind
By
is,
the way,
wow, what an amazing smelling meat.
I love that story, by the way, in the sense that first of all, they were going to beat him up because yeah, he was Baltashkis and he teased everybody with his yummy meat, and then he throws it in the garbage. Like, what are you doing?
Right,
Baltashkis.
not just
The
that.
se the
Meat
second
back on
time
a big
around,
piece of meat is it's like
right?
way.
Baltashkis, yeah.
It's like
What a
imagine
waste.
you walk into a hotel kitchen by a wedding, and they have a giant roast, and you pick up their roast and throw them out in the garbage. Like
Well,
they
first of
beat
all,
you up too.
he danced around, and everyone's like, "Ooh, what a yummy roast! What a yummy!" He teases everybody, he gets everyone all excited, and then he throws it in the
Right,
garbage. And but then they're like, oh, then the second time they're going to beat him up. This is what I want. This is what I love. Is the second time they're going to beat him up because who are you, Mr. Ruach Hakodesh, Mr. Tzaddik?
right,
You're playing with your magic powers. You're dancing around. You're making a big show of your
right,
magic powers that you knew. It
right.
wasn't. They wouldn't even bother. They weren't even like, oh my gosh, this guy's got magic powers. It was more like, okay, fine, you have Ruach Hakodesh, big whoop. We're all sitting with Alter Rebbe. Who doesn't? Like,
Right.
it was more. They were more like, but you're playing games with them. And so then he had to explain, no, I didn't see this with Ruach HaKodesh. Because when I was dancing, I saw that's why I was dancing. I was gauging people's reactions. And because I saw everyone was a little too much, and I myself was too much, I
Right.
was too obsessed with this meat, and everyone else was also, I was like, this is wrong. We should not be eating this meat. Whereby if I bring there's something wrong with it. We can't do this. Which the way I
By
always
the way,
understood the story, by the
what
way,
a high
is
level
not that
again.
hold on, but the way I always understood the story was not that because of that he knew the meat was treif. In my understanding of the story, he
He just
always
something
thought the meat was kosher.
right.
But either way, he felt this is inappropriate, even if it's kosher. Right now, the way everyone's feeling about this, we cannot have this.
But by the way,
Which to me,
by the way,
that's
what a high level because I've seen a piece of meat and you go, look at this, look at this challenge, right? And I ate it and it was kosher. So obviously he was a much higher sort of guy.
not good.
No, but it's true also, right? It's
But I think that's the real lesson for me. I know in my own life is that looking at things in that way, where even if in other circumstances this thing would be totally kosher v'yosher and would be beneficial to me, but right now the way I'm approaching this isn't the right. This
right.
isn't kosher for me right
No,
now. This would not be kosher.
and it's interesting too because excitement, it's also there's a time and place. For example, on Shabbos, if you see a piece of meat on Shabbos and you go, it's a good piece of meat, right? On Shabbos, that's good.
On
You're
Shabbos, yeah,
supposed to have a physical tainuk in the meat. You're supposed to have a physical enjoyment,
right,
right?
right.
You should know during the weekdays, I don't eat a lot of meat.
Hmm.
I rarely eat meat during the weekdays. Now, the truth is that has as much to do as with my attempts at good cardiac health as as it does with again. Am I doing it for the Aberster? I don't know.
Or my
But
a little bit of both, a little.
but still, at the same time, it's a matter of like which what I like about living in Pittsburgh instead of in a place that has a lot of because in a place where there's a lot of restaurants, this and that, you're a
Be much
lot more
harder
often
to.
drawn to like food that will tempt you to say a good piece of meat. you
Right.
know I this last week I had it during the week. I had a very good meat meal, a very very good meat meal. But we had the chassan and kala with us, so it was part of Simchas chassan and kala.
So
So
that's
fine,
yeah. You're being
it was
Misamech Chas V'Kala.
it's
That's
different, you know. And it's okay because afterwards I got the bill to temper my excitement. So
I'm sure it's okay.
so
Sure,
the
that's
chasna
okay. Say
kala
look.
can be happy. Me, I then got a bill to temper my. It didn't taste quite as good after that. So,
Tears that rolled down onto that piece of flesh make it taste not so good.
I salty. Yeah, it was a very salty piece of meat.
No.
But yeah,
Okay, fine.
and again, it doesn't mean that the total enjoyment of something, and I'm talking a total enjoy the piece of meat. Okay, on Shabbos, Simchas Yom Tov, it's just the other way around. It's that's a good thing. It's a good thing to be to have a piece of meat that makes you excited about the piece of meat. Mamish
Absolutely.
a tainug in the meat. That's
I would say
because
actually it depends on the Yom
that's
Tov.
what you're supposed to do on Shabbos and Yom
Right.
Tov.
What's interesting is especially there's a whole thing I've just learned Shavuos. Shavuos more than other Yom Tovim. Shavuos has a unique thing, but whatever. Anyway, it's already 11. So we think we
Yeah.
have enough time to do these Beis Shmuels, or we'll have to continue
No, it's a
later.
longer one. So I guess we'll
Yeah.
continue
Okay.
with that Beit Shmuel.
The Beis Shmuels on Aleph. I will say I looked up the whole Pilegish thing. I haven't read it yet, but there's an English translated tshuva from Rabbi Yaakov Emden all
Mm.
about Bichlal, about the issue of Pilegish. And he gets into Bichlal, what's the difference between what's a wife and what's a Pilegish? And he starts from the Gemara, and it's a whole very interesting. I just started to glance at it, but I'll send you the link.
Yeah, which is probably very helpful for understanding this sugya.
This is like it's like a 20-page tshuva or something,
I mean, now
or
to be
40
fair,
pages.
as far as practicality, we don't have peel. We
Right.
don't.
We don't really,
We
yeah,
don't have peel action.
we don't. But
But
it is very fascinating with regards to because he talks about Yichud,
yeah,
the whole thing of Yichud and David HaMelech, which we just learned. But then with Pilegesh, how does that work? And so, yeah, that's not what we're talking about. And a Pilegesh, in fact, he brings up a fascinating Gemara I didn't know of, but a certain Tana who every time he'd come to a town, he'd go to where the single ladies were at, and he would. It says in Gemara Yuma, first Perek, a big chacham, a big sage. Every time he'd be like, "Okay, who wants to spend the night with me? Who wants to
right,
spend the day with me? Who would be with him?" So it's fascinating, especially with what we're talking about now. We're
right.
being saying outside of marriage. We're saying a chacham used to do this. But I think it speaks to also like what we were just talking about of the difference between something that's a biological imperative, someone having a need versus a want, and making sure to take care of that need, which we spoke about in the Mitzvah Levatala thing we
Right.
brought up, where taka, if not doing something could lead to something even worse, then maybe there's even room. You know, he's saying taka. Okay, maybe who do you bring up? It was
It was Sefer Hasidim.
Yehuda Sefer Chassidim, Sefer
Sefer Hasidim
Chassidim, yeah,
that had that.
Sefer Chassidim. Right, and the doctor maybe you should go take care of it so that he doesn't end up being with a nida or a married woman or something. You know, but like it's a very. I think it. I think if I read the rest of this tshuva, it'll greatly
Well, it's
affect the
yeah. I mean,
perspective
listen,
and the understanding of
it goes
Bechlal. What are we?
yeah,
What is this sugya?
it goes back to the matter of that the cloud that the Torah
In fact, I might post
is a
it.
perfect wisdom being applied to an imperfect people.
I'm going to post it to the 770 group, to the Diana's group, because I think a lot of people would benefit from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope the website I found it on is a kosher website, but man, I should have checked that before. Okay. Anyway, all right.
Fine. Good.